Two nations between whom there is no intercourse and no sympathy, who are as ignorant of each other's habits, thoughts, and feelings as if they were dwellers in different zones or inhabitants of different planets, who were formed by different breeding, are fed by a different food, are ordered by different manners, and are not governed by the same laws. As this quotation demonstrates, Disraeli pulled no punches when describing the differences between rich and poor. The Sybil, or the Two Nations, created a sensation on its first publication in 1845. So I'm reading from the introduction of this novel, Sybil, by Benjamin Disraeli, the British Prime Minister. I'll also read his short intro, which will tell us a little more about who and what he was before he became the Prime Minister and after he became the Prime Minister. The story is set during the period 1837 to 44. Victoria became queen in 1837. I mean, it's just so political, this entire novel, referring to the Whigs and the finances, the exchequer, the corn laws, and all of it. It concerns Chartist agitation. When I read this, I was just drawn back to the days of my PhD program in Canada and got so nostalgic with that unfinished thing that I have to someday do. So the story is set during the period 1837 to 44. Victoria became queen in 1837, concerns Chartist agitation and social disturbance, and is acknowledged as the earliest and in many ways the best condition of England novel. And in many ways, and is considered in many ways the best condition of England novel. An economic depression followed the Napoleonic Wars, prices fell, wages were cut, and the new economic and commercial centers of the Midlands and the North lacked parliamentary representation. In the countryside, matters were no better, as agricultural wages were desperately low and rick burning. The smashing of farm machinery and rioting were commonplace, particularly during the winter months. Added to this, the price of bread was kept artificially high, as the corn laws prevented the import of cheaper foreign wheat. The likelihood of a revolution in England was a distinct possibility. The Chartist movement gave voice to these injustices. It was a predominantly working class movement which sought to establish by legal means equal political and social rights for all classes. Disraeli's description in Sybil of the miserable living and working conditions of the poor is deservedly famous. With numerous historical disquisitions, the novel contrasts the lives of a spurious aristocracy ennobled by dynastic plunder and commercial greed, living in affluence and political selfishness, with the noble aspirations of the journalist Stephen Morley and his friend, the militant Chartist leader Walter Gerard. Portrayed as thoughtful representatives of the working class, Walter's daughter, Sybil, is a Roman Catholic who wishes to take the veil but unfortunately marries Charles Egremont, an enlightened young aristocrat and the younger brother of the grasping landlord, Lord Marney. The connection is made between the Marney family and Sybil by her relationship to the last abbot of Marney, whose lands had been seized by opportunistic robber barons and the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII. Sybil, like Coningsby 1844, was part of Disraeli's Young England campaign to extend the appeal of the Tory party to a wider electorate, the emergence of which he clearly foresaw, but which was not to be achieved with anything like the speed many at the time anticipated. Despite its paternalism and sometimes operatic romanticism, Sybil is a keenly observed piece of social satire and a classic of its kind. Benjamin Disraeli was born on 21st December 1804 into a comfortably well-off family of Sephardic Jews. His father, Isaac Disraeli, resigned from the synagogue when Benjamin was entering his teens and had him baptized into the Anglican Church. Disraeli had brief careers as a lawyer, as a speculator on the stock exchange, and as a journalist. He published his first novel, Vivian Grey, in 1826 in an attempt to pay off his earlier accumulated debts. In 1832, he entered politics, standing twice without success as a radical before joining the Tory party. After two further unsuccessful attempts to be elected to the House of Commons, he became Conservative MP for Maidstone in 1837, and in 1839 he married Mrs. Mary Ann Wyndham Lewis, the widow of a previous Conservative MP for Maidstone. He was closely associated with the Young England group of reforming Tory MPs during his early years in Parliament. Disraeli first held political office in Lord Derby's Conservative administration of 1852 and was Prime Minister in 1868 and from 1874 to 1880. In 1876, the year Queen Victoria became Empress of India, he was created first Earl of Beaconsfield, a title from Vivian Grey. He continued writing up until the time of his death on 19th April 1881. And there are recommendations of further reading that also I'm going to read out and share with you because I want to save it for myself as much as share it with you. And, the people have written on Disraeli, of course, and when he was a prime minister. And that just gives you so much impetus, as a writer as well. So, R. Blake Disraeli, 1966. That is his, I think, biography of Disraeli or a study of Disraeli, 1966. M. Edelman, Disraeli Rising, 1975. C. Hibbert, Disraeli and His World, 1978. B. R. German, The Young Disraeli, German. With the spelling of this is not as in German, but German, which is German, The Young Disraeli, 1960. D. R. Schwartz, Chwarz, Disraeli's Fiction, 1979. This is purely literary. R. Thames Disraeli, 1974. And here is a dedication of this novel, Sybil. I would inscribe these volumes to one whose noble spirit and gentle nature ever prompt her to sympathize with the suffering, to one whose sweet voice has often encouraged and whose taste and judgment have ever guided their pages, the most severe of critics, but a perfect wife. So, we could read a few things from the novel, but how about I read it separately? It was really a pleasure to share this with you. Here is the novel, the cover design, Two Nations, The Huge Gap. Thank you for listening to me and my reading of this great novel.